So, Hereward, which is easier to cope with, success or disappointment?
I mean, Robert, that question is, I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous. Success, well, maybe it isn't ridiculous. I've never had the degree of success where it becomes a burden. I've known very famous people who made it young in life. I'm not going to name names here, but household names who made it young in life. And you do actually, after a while, think, you know what, I'm glad I never made it young, because, you know, we're talking spoiled teenagers in their 30s and 40s. It's not a good look. That whole kind of development that one would do when you are that teenager and you know, you're Kevin the teenager. At that stage, those who get very famous at that age, all their ridiculous needs are met, you know, and everything's kind of pushed forward. So at the point at which you would expect a person to be grown up, they're actually not. So I'm kind of glad I avoided that, even though I was desperate to make it when I was young, you know. And I've got another friend who got very big at one point, and he had the Sun newspaper. He'd watch from the window and see them going through his bins and outside and digging out anything they could to turn it into an article. And he was offered a very big deal that would have made him even bigger in America. And he turned it down. He just decided, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to live with that. And he realigned his life. He's still doing very nicely, but on his own terms in a very good way. I never had that. I've had moments of fame. When I was in the Flying Pickets, in some countries, you are very famous, and in others, you're not famous at all. I wasn't on the record that made them famous, only you, the Christmas #1. But there was a guy that your listeners might remember, the guy with the sideburns. Everybody in the pickets who enjoyed the Flying Pickets remembers the bald one and the one with the sideburns. Yeah. And they all assume now, of course, that I was the bald one. But I wasn't either of them. But the lead singer, the guy with the sideburns, he left, and I was his replacement. So I joined a group that were already famous. And I mean, my first job, I thought, well, this is just money for old Roe. I literally had to jump on a plane to Barcelona, go to a film studio where they were pretending it was Christmas Day, because amazingly, I'd just joined a band that were going live across the whole nation of Spain on Christmas Day. And it was to lip sync to the hit Only You. And because I hadn't even had time to learn the song, there's one part in it which is that because everything in the Flying Pickets was done vocally, just with the voice. So they had a kind of somebody who was the snare drum going like this. Yeah. And so I had the part, okay? And it was a set, it was a kind of film set where it was a restaurant and there were waiters and champagne. There were beautiful models. And as the cameras rolled, a beautiful model stepped sat in the seat in front of me and smiled this wonderful toothpaste grin at me. And our glasses were held up and the waiter was filling them with champagne. And the track Only You started. And the camera turned on me, and she looked at me dreamily, and I went. Well, I was tasting success. I'm not sure what she was tasting. But I thought, yeah, well, if it's all going to be like this is pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then I was jumping on a plane to Australia, straight onto breakfast TV, 5 stars, hotels all the way, sold out concerts in all the main cities. I was 7 weeks on tour in Australia, on and off telly. And yeah, it was an incredible change of life. But then when that was over, I said to the tour manager, where are we going to next? And he said, he was a dour Yorkshireman, you know, I said, Belgium. I said, oh, great, you know, we got some nice gigs, some nice hotels. He said, nobody knows you. We're building it up. Never done it before. And so suddenly you're playing sticky floored clubs and staying in shivery little box rooms in the local Ibis hotel where the heating isn't working. And it was very humbling and grounding. And so then I got the gig, I thought, and there was everything in between as well, of course. 13 years I did that, 100 shows a year for 13 years, none of them in the UK. If we played in the UK, hardly anyone would turn up because the UK, we're such a hub for new music. It's fantastic, you know, we really are such a creative country. But what we found was all the other countries will give you years more life. You know, if your record had made it, they wanted you on all their festival bills. And so, you know, Germany kept us employed for a long time, Austria, France, all the European countries, down to South Africa, you know, and we could go year after year and earn a good living. You know, I like to think that I represent all those musicians or people who want to achieve, who try to achieve, who don't necessarily find the fame and glory, but they are jobbing musicians, jobbing writers, lyricists, whatever, composers. They create stuff and they do it for the love of music, for the love of words and the enjoyment of the process. And if you can keep it going for a lifetime, as I have done, then I count that as success. It's not the success I thought I was going to get, but I'm kind of proud to have kept the wheels on the bus going round and round, doing the thing that I love. If you make your hobby the thing that you do for a job, then, as somebody else said, you never have to do another day's work in your life.
And you're still pursuing that success now. So what are your current projects?
So I run a music school now called Rock School in Haywards Heath. In fact, I started it in 2006 when I saw the movie School of Rock with Jack Black, and I loved the movie. And somebody had asked me, coincidentally, in the same week that I saw that movie, if I ever taught guitar. You know, she wanted her son to learn guitar. It's a family friend, and I had never taught a guitar lesson in my life. I mean, I play guitar, bass, keyboards, drums, and I'm a songwriter. That's kind of the thing I love. But so for me to just give a guitar lesson, I thought, well, why don't we do School of Rock for real? So I found some premises and opened a rock school. I wanted to recreate for young people that visceral feeling that I had when I went to my first ever gigs when I was a youngster. Obviously, it was I'm 68 now, so it was back in the early 60s. So I went to see the Shadows live when I was about 9. And then incredibly in 1963, the Beatles came to town. I loved the Beatles. And I've got 2 older sisters who queued for tickets. through the night, and they got me a ticket, and we got really good seats close to the stage. I had John Lennon right in front of me. I'd never seen anything like it. In those days, you had curtains, and they were sticking their Chelsea boots through the curtains just to ramp up the screams, which were already deafening. You know, Jimmy Tarbuck was the compere, and the curtains opened, and there they were, these, you know, these kind of gods, you know, to me as a 12-year-old. And I mean, I could tell you all about that Beatles gig. I remember every minute of it in detail. I even remember what they said in between numbers. But enough to say that fainted girls were being passed over my head and laid out in the centre aisle and ferried into ambulances by St. John's ambulance phone, which must have been really disappointing for them to wake up in hospital when they'd been, you know, or in an ambulance and not been allowed back in. But anyway, that's how it was. But I came out, and my world had changed completely. I knew exactly what I was going to do. But just one little footnote to that, it was obviously a night I would never forget, but neither would the rest of the world. It was the night when President Kennedy was assassinated. So these two incredible events, the moment I was in my dad's car, we were going, "Down the Beatles, Beatles, Beatles." And he was saying, "Shush, shush, shush." And he was trying to turn up the radio. Grave news is coming through. President Kennedy has been assassinated. So it was almost like a day that changed the world. My world certainly changed. And when I started rock school, I wanted to create for young people that feeling of excitement. So I've tried to create a little, I mean, we've been going for 15, 16 years now. So we're in Haywards Heath, folks. Come to rock school, we would welcome you. I've also written in lockdown a memoir, which I'm trying to find a literary agent for. And I've written a novel and turned it into a new musical. So I've got three things. My secret to life is a project. To me, a project in life is it's hope, it's energy, it's belief in the future. You know, you don't create a project and think, well, this isn't going to go anywhere, because you just wouldn't get anywhere with it. So you live in hope when you have something coming up to the boil. And, you know, I would say the journey can be more exciting than arriving. I certainly know all about the journey. Arriving is a much more, you know, difficult thing to do. But if you can enjoy the journey, you know, as Kipling said, I know British imperialist poets haven't travelled well, but If is an absolutely monumental poem. And, you know, he says, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, and that's what a project gives you. So, yeah, I've got lots on the boil.
Thank you, Hereward. It's been really great talking to you.
Thank you for the invitation. Lovely talking to you too.